kind of feel like I'm on a date right now, but I also feel like I'm about to give a presentation. So, anyway, first date with the internet, let's go. Hi everybody. I was about to say welcome back, but this is the first episode. So, welcome to the
Now Listening to podcast.
Title is a work in progress, so if I do end up changing the name of this pod, that will be voiced over. But anyway, this podcast is hosted by yours truly, Allison Martin, and it is a music-focused podcast, among other things, because I can't keep a straight line of thought. I'm a yapper, and cherry on top of all three of those things, I have a tricklage of interests in various other stuff, mainly pop culture. But anyway, to get some housekeeping out of the way, title, still work in progress. Not that that matters too much. As for the actual, podcast itself, if you could see my setup right now, that's all I'm going to say. This is a completely independent venture. Wow, I talk so much with my hands, it's crazy. Also, for audio listeners only, I'm so sorry because I cannot keep my train of thought going. But anyway, wow, I literally already lost my train of thought and we're not even 5 minutes in. That's freaking crazy. This is completely independently produced, edited endeavor. So I'd say plus or minus the first 5 episodes. You're going to have to give me some grace, especially with audio, because, hey, I never claimed to be a woman in STEM. I also didn't never claim to be a sound engineer. So we're doing our best with what we know from the past. And yeah, as for that, that's kind of all I have to say. Please give me some grace. Also, I can already tell you that this episode's audio is there's going to be some white noise because it is way too hot in my room right now for there to be no fan, for one. And for two, my county is currently under tornado watch. So if you hear any rain, thunder, lightning, any culmination of the three, I have tried to sit down about 4 times today to film this, and I've been interrupted every single time. So it's happening now or it's not happening. But yeah, that's kind of all the housekeeping I have to get out of the way. Now kind of getting into the meat of this episode, which in my notes right now is titled Introduction to the Pod and My Background with Music. So, you might be wondering, who is this random ass girl on the internet who is basically rattling on about music to me, who has no following and is creating something in a very oversaturated industry? I have a couple answers. Hopefully a couple answers that will last about an hour. But anyway, to reintroduce myself, hi, I'm Allison. Like I said, this feels like a first date, so I'm sure as these episodes go on, my genuine self will get to show, but last time I talked to a camera for the internet was 15. I was 15 or 16, so at least 6 to 7 years ago. So on that note, hi, I'm Allison. I am 21, about to be 22. And yeah, as I said, this podcast is going to be focused on music, and you may be wondering, what are my qualifications to even talk about music? Short answer is none, but long answer is music's been really important to me, and I'm a music nerd, and you will get to know every single thing about my past with music up until this very point and what has gotten me here right now, today, as I am filming this. So yeah, if you want to hear about that, I'll let you know. I have about the first 20 episodes mapped out. So we should be in good practice. But on that note, what you can expect from the pod.
I'm calling it Now Listening To because it's about music.
AKA redacted until I figure out what the actual title is going to be. That's kind of my rolling title. But I called it that because I want to do a plethora of different types of podcasts on here. All of them loosely tied to music, but ultimately, like, for me to be able to talk for an hour and also keep a linear, like, train of thought, that, like, those two things can't happen. If you want a linear train of thought, it's going to be 5 minutes. If you want me to talk for an hour, I'm going to be zigzagging all over the place. So, also zigzagging, not a word, zigzagging is what I meant. But, wow, I thought talking to myself would be so much easier, but when you have the camera, like, staring back at you, kind of makes it a little bit more intimidating. But yeah, the video types that I'm planning on filming, and sorry for audio-only listeners, the video component I don't think will be that important. It's just going to be me talking. And I will specify with each episode if I think that the visual component is more compelling. That's personally how I watch podcasts or listen to podcasts. I like the video component. But anyway, what you can expect, the rough kind of video ideas I have logged in my notes are video essay style videos. So those are going to be kind of more research heavy, about specific things I'm interested in. And like, because like I said, I have a tendency to hyperfixate on things, like, and usually it's for a short period of time, but it, like, yeah, I can hyperfixate on something really easily, and then I throw myself into it. So I have a couple of those logged away. And then otherwise it's going to kind of be me learning how to record, and produce and mix and practicing my instruments and blah, blah, blah. I'm hoping down the line that there can be kind of an interactive component, where you guys kind of tell me what you want to see from me. And then also there's going to be kind of my background with music, going through like old songs I wrote, old performances, my different eras of music that I went through, which those will be kind of more about getting to know me and how it's tied to music, but nonetheless music adjacent. But anyway, that's kind of my rough plan for the podcast, but this is kind of boring, so I'm not going to dwell on it too long. And instead, I'm going to get into kind of the background of this whole endeavor. So, my background with music, what led me to this point, kind of what gives me any ground to stand on in terms of my interest for music, which, by the way, you don't need to have any sort of formal or traditional training to talk about music. You could literally just say, hey, I like how this sounds, and that's a valid takeaway. So, anyway, to take it all back, I am, like I said, 21, turning 22 in like 2 weeks. Damn. Anyway, because of that, I have to take you back about 17 years to when I was about 5 years old. And even before that, my introduction to music, I would say, was through my dad. He's been like super into music his entire life. Not particularly in a performance or production manner, but just super like in love with music, listens to like so many different kinds of genres, loves going to concerts, like everything like that. So I had that influence in my life from the beginning. So I think that in some sense was a catalyst. But yeah, my dad was always someone who kept me interested in music and kind of exposed me to different genres of music. But I would say the blueprint for what my musical past would become was Hannah Montana. As most 5-year-olds born in the early 2000s, hey, Miley Stewart, I wanted her to be my sister, and I fully believed that I could be Hannah Montana. I will actually insert some photos on the screen of me with my Hannah Montana guitar, in addition to me dressing up as Hannah Montana on Halloween. So she was a blueprint, and kind of coupled with that at the same time, I am the oldest of 4 children, so I put very nicely in my notes here that I had a tendency to want to be in the spotlight growing up. to put it in a less diplomatic way, I was an attention whore since about 5 years old. I have one younger brother and 2 younger sisters. So I wanted to be in the spotlight. I want to be the center of attention. There's like old family videos that I watch where I'm just like, wow, I was insufferable. But anyway, I have a very distinct memory. My brother is 3 years younger than me, and my sisters are twins and 6 years younger than me. When my sisters were like toddlers in our old house, they were like maybe 1 or 2, and they had like these magnetic, I don't know how to describe them. They were like these magnetic like cylinder things that connected to one another. And they also had like little sphere like balls that you could connect that were also somehow magnetic. I don't know. But what I would do is I would stack all of the cylinders on top of each other and then put the ball on top, and I would make a mic stand on my mantle, because my mantle was kind of like a raised floor that was made out of bricks. So I would use that as a stage, and then I would have my mic stand as well as my microphone, and I would put on performances and concerts for my family. And my sisters would be my background dancers. So if that is not kind of painting the picture of where kind of my whole past with music is going, that has led me to this point, I don't know how to paint a more vivid picture. But yeah, that was the very beginning. So Hannah Montana, being the oldest sibling, and my dad, admiration for music. But this is all kind of betting on me having an ounce of musical talent. So yeah, I've always loved to sing and talk and be the center of attention, as is obvious because I literally cannot, like, I'm filming an hour of myself talking. So if that, like, hey, it still rings true, and that is perfectly fine. I'm nothing if not consistent. Sorry that I keep looking at my laptop. Also, I have literally like bullet point from like 3 years old to now, like everything that I've ever come across with music. But yeah, those 3 things are important, kind of just setting the foundation for what my life would become in the future. But as a kid, I also always loved to sing and do performances, especially with my friends. I think part of it can be accredited to the fact that I was in Girl Scouts, and in Girl Scouts, if you're not American Girl Scouts, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a club that you join when you're a kid, and you have like certain goals that you get to do, like going camping and learning specific camping skills and life skills and making the world a better place and everything like that. And there's honestly a big performance aspect to it, like putting on skits and singing songs, especially if you're on a camping trip. So I think that had something to do with it, because I was doing skits a lot, and I was like, oh, another way to attract attention, of course. So like, why wouldn't I love that? So yeah, and then I also wrote silly songs. Like, the earliest I can remember is like maybe I was in like 1st or 2nd grade. My childhood best friend, who I still talk to now, so maybe she can vouch for this, but I would consistently have sleepovers at her house, and I had this like pink little notebook, and I would write songs in it. The only song I can remember that I wrote then was something about Christmas. I'm sure if I dug through all my crap, I could find it. But yeah, I've been writing like silly, stupid little songs since I was a child, so that also kind of is setting up for the future as well. And then, yeah, okay. So then when I was late elementary school, I joined choir, which was actually going to go ahead and be a catalyst for the future of my performance career, basically, which is now at the ripe age of 21, almost 22, kind of a little bit over. Not over. It's just on a indefinite hiatus, like One Direction. But yeah, I was in choir in elementary school, so I found out that I could, in fact, sing, which was great. And 5th grade talent show. This is a very pivotal point where I realized, like, hey, because always as a kid, I was like, what do I want to be when I'm older? Oh, Hannah Montana. I want to be a musician. I want to be a singer. I want to be a pop star. I want to be a rock star. I might even be a rock star. Anyway, for all of my Hannah Montana stands out there, you just caught what I did there. But yeah, 5th grade talent show. Basically, I was friends with, also important to lay the scene. I have grown up abroad for about like 50-50 split, having grown up in the U.S. because I am Peruvian American. I am mixed. My mom is white. My dad is mixed Peruvian American. So yeah, that. And also for the rest of me introducing myself and kind of my background with music. Wow, I'm out of breath. Give me 1 second. Also, beverages today are going to include, I need to get used to talking into the microphone as well, are going to include a 0 sugar root beer, which has been my fixation drink for the past, I'd say more than a month now, and water out of a 40-ounce tumbler, of course, because I am just a girl. And my mom got mad at me for ordering I just gulped into the mic, I'm so sorry. For ordering yet another cup, but as far as I see it, no harm, no foul. I'm just staying hydrated. Okay, now let me catch my breath. I don't need to talk a million miles a minute. Anyway, I was living in Germany at the time. Late elementary school, so probably like 3rd grade through 5th grade, I think. And I was friends with a lot of very outgoing kids. This was also kind of like my Shake It Up era, like Zendaya and Bella Thorne. All of that, like dancing and singing. I was like, oh, that is so me. That is so me. I don't know how else to say it. So I was taking hip-hop classes. I was dancing. Newsflash, I'm not very good at dancing, but we don't need to focus on that. But anyway, I had a lot of friends who were like a little bit younger than me that were like, oh, we're doing a duo for the talent show. And then I was like, okay, y'all are doing a duo? I'm doing a solo. I'm auditioning for the talent show. But this was the first time that I realized, and if the fact that I'm talking to a camera and like into a microphone and feel like what I have to say is important and needs to be put out into the world, doesn't show this enough. I'm a very extroverted person. I've only become slightly more introverted in my adulthood via different features out of my control, vis-a-vis COVID-19. But regardless, I'm still quite extroverted. I can talk to lots of people. Like, getting up on a stage doesn't scare me, or so I thought. But fifth grade talent show was the first time this was kind of brought to my attention that I might have a little bit of stage fright. So I signed up for the auditions, but I kept avoiding that crap like it was the plague. They lasted like, I think 2 weeks. My memory, forgive me, is a little bit blurry because this was more than 10 years ago. Like, I don't remember. To be completely honest with you, I do not remember. Yeah, literally 10 years ago. If not longer at that point. So, I was avoiding it like the plague, though. I remember, like, I was really nervous to audition. And, like, all I had to do to be in the talent show was bring a burned CD with the karaoke track of the song I was going to sing. And that song was going to go ahead and be Ready or Not by Bridget Mendler. So shout out to Bridget. She's doing such important things these days, but she was the artist that I was going to perform. But, of course, I waited till the last day of auditions and did not get that burned CD from my father for whatever reason. So I showed up to the audition anyway, because I had told my parents I was doing it. And if I had shown up at home, they would have been like, hey, why are you at home? Oh my god, I need to catch my breath. Hopefully this becomes easier with time. I feel like I'm talking so fast. But anyway, yeah, if I had shown up at home, my parents would be like, what the hell are you doing here? Why didn't you go to the audition? So I show up at the audition. My two friends who were doing their, like, duo act went, and they were, like, dancing and singing, and it looked really good. And I was like, damn, I don't know how I'm going to be able to compete with that. So marched my little 5th grade booty up onto the stage. And there's like a panel of judges that were like weeding out the auditions for the talent show, which is insane because I went to a tiny little international school, and this, I'm pretty sure, was just elementary and middle school. So literally, how many people did you have auditioning? Besides the point. But they were like, oh, what are you singing? Where's your track? I said, oh, I didn't get it. I'll get it to you by tomorrow. But I'm going to be singing. This next part of the story always makes me laugh at myself. I'm going to be singing Ready or Not by Bridget Mendler. And they said, okay, well, what do you want to do then? Like, since you didn't bring the music. And I said, oh, I'll just like sing it without the music. Did not know the word for this at the time. I performed an a cappella performance of Ready or Not by Bridget Mendler. On that stage, proudly kept in pitch, apparently, for the whole song. And at the end, which was the first ego boost I've ever had about music, and maybe the last, like the head judge, he was like, oh, do you take voice lessons? And I was like, no, I don't. And he was like, wow, you have like a really great voice, like especially for someone your age, you have a really great voice. And I was like, thank you. But hey, long story short, didn't get the burn CD to them the next day, so was unable to participate in the talent show. So yeah, I don't really know what was going on then, because I was still obviously extroverted enough to go ahead and do something like that, but then also like not enough. Maybe I was just insecure. So my poor 5th grade self, little did she know, she had plenty of time to make up for it. But anyway, that was the catalyst for kind of like, oh, I am good at music and I could actually be a performer, and me being a musician actually isn't as far-fetched as I thought. So after this talent show, I moved back to the US and went to where? Sorry, guys. Oh, I moved back to the US and I was in middle school. And at the age of 11 onwards, I stumbled across this little tiny underground band called One Direction. And I became so obsessed. So obsessed with them. Like, maybe I can cover this in I have a One Direction episode banked. Episode 8. So if you want to stick around for that. Episode 8, I will be venturing, but I wrote fan fiction. I had a shirt that said Future Mrs. Styles. I went, to the concert, bought all the merch that I could with my 12-year-old money, and convinced myself that 13-year-old me would be absolutely insatiable and irresistible to, how old was he at the time? I was 13. 21-year-old Harry Styles. So if that's not painting a picture. And of course, my 2 childhood best friends also were kind of in that delusion. We had a Niall girl on the other hand and a Louis girl. So the 3 of us kind of just festered back and forth, letting that go. And then I got the brilliant idea because, rest in peace, but Perry Edwards and Zayn Malik were still together at this time. So I convinced myself that, hey, Perry Edwards is in Little Mix, which is a girl band. Oh my god. I did not adjust the volume of this the whole time. So I'm so sorry about that. Dang. That's crazy. I did not adjust the volume the entire time. I'll probably be louder now. But I convinced myself that the way that we were going to get One Direction's attention and marry them subsequently was if we were in a girl band. Except the funny part about that is that none of us went to the same school. One of us lived about 4 states away. And yeah, the other 2 of us saw each other maybe once a week or like twice a month. So yeah, that very quickly failed, but I was so dead set on making it happen. So we have this piece of information. I'm obsessed with One Direction. I wanted to be in a girl band, like daydreamed about performing on a stage literally all the time. Posted covers to Instagram, my secret Instagram that I didn't tell my parents I had because they didn't want me to be posting stuff on Instagram, and rightfully so because I was a child. But yeah, posting all that stuff, whatever. But then on the opposite end of the spectrum, I had developed crazy intense stage fright. And I don't know if this was like because I was in a new place and I was having a hard time making friends. I know, shocker, because I can talk to myself for an hour straight, so why wouldn't anyone want to be my friend? But anyway, I had developed really intense stage fright in middle school, and it kind of got in the way of me being able to advance with music at all. Specifically, like, all of my friends that I did eventually make in middle school were very, like, choir kid, theater kids, like, trying out for the musical, doing voice lessons. Like, they were already all at that point, and I was still struggling even with auditions. Like, I would prepare for auditions weeks at a time, and then I would lie to my parents that I went to the audition, I just didn't get it, wouldn't go to the audition. Well, I would just skip it. I vividly remember in 8th grade, I was trying out, I think it was 8th grade. It was some year in middle school. I was trying out for Cinderella, and I lied to my mom about the musical audition. And I, like, came home early, and I just said, oh, well, they turned people away because there's too many people auditioning. Liar. That was not the case. I just got too nervous to audition. My mom felt super bad for me, to the point that she did indeed call up the theater teacher at my middle school and asked why they were turning people away. And she said, actually, we overran the auditions by about 2 hours because of the amount of people who were auditioning. Allison did not come. And that was going to be one of the first times I was caught in a huge lie. So I was forced to go back to the school on Thursday to audition, totally bombed the audition. And that continued through my sophomore year of high school. And so I knew that I had a good voice and that I had potential, but I was not letting myself reach that potential. And nobody was seeing my full range of talents because, I don't know, I had convinced myself that, like, no matter how hard I tried, like, and in part this is true. If you have ever been a choir kid or a theater kid or adjacent to those things, especially, I don't know what it is about, like, specific public school, like, choir and drama teachers. They will pick 3 or 4 favorites, and they will consistently give the solos to those kids and no one else. So I had convinced myself that that's what was going to happen anyway, so there was no point of me, like, trying to get over my stage fright. So yeah, I auditioned for the musicals 3 years in a row, didn't even get as much as an ensemble part, tried for, like, the more advanced choirs at my high school, did not get any of those parts either. And what else? I think that was about it. Just really unhappy with music overall, and just kind of convinced myself that I wasn't as good as my friends who did music, which is really sad to me now because I just was scared. But now is kind of where we are venturing into the more pivotal part that I think gives me more qualification to start this podcast in the first place. But this was my sophomore year of high school onwards. I moved to Thailand, and I finished my last 3 years of high school there and graduated there. But the interesting thing about this private school that I was going to is that they have a very common international program called the International Baccalaureate degree, or International Baccalaureate Program, otherwise known as the IB. And it is a very specific, rigorous curriculum across all subjects. And I came my sophomore year of high school, which is like the second, or is the last year before you start what is called the DP. And not to bore you too much, you can look it up if you are really more interested. But the DP is the diploma program, which is what you do your final 2 years of college, or not college, of high school. And you take 3 higher level classes, which are classes you attend more frequently and have a more substantial syllabus for, and then 3 standard level classes, as well as something called TOK, which is called Theory of Knowledge, which is similar to philosophy class, an extended essay, which is a 4,000 word research paper you turn in your final year of high school. So, with that being said, I threw myself into music as soon as I moved there. I decided whatever this, like, stage fright bullshit that you've had in the past. You're kicking it to the curb and you are going to fake it till you make it. That was my mantra my entire first year of high school in Thailand. Fake it till you make it. And I made it. Threw myself into music full time and moved to this private school in Thailand, which had crazy funding. I went to a rich school. And I tell you, I am not from a rich family. It was just circumstances aligned for me. I will just say that much. But they had crazy funding and they had live music events literally all the time. Like my junior and senior year of high school, I was performing like at least once a month, maybe like at some point once a week. So yeah, before this, I had been like really minimally exposed to like composing my own music and music software and even like live performance by myself. Like I had never done anything like that. I had been in choir my whole life, which, hey, that doesn't count. I'm just telling you now, it doesn't count. So yeah. But I had been writing songs this whole time, and I had been taking guitar lessons since I was like, I don't know when I started guitar lessons. I think I was 12. Newsflash, I never got very good at guitar. I'm still not very good at it now. I can play pretty basic chords and a little bit of like finger picking stuff. Bar chords, I'm terrible. Scales, I'm terrible. I'm not very good at guitar. And guitar and singing at the same time, But yeah, I had been taking guitar for a really long time. I had been writing songs for a while. So yeah. I had that as my background, but I was not otherwise exposed to like even GarageBand or like Sibelius is one that was really popular, which is like a music notation software. I was barely grade 1 music theory when I was at that school, or when I first joined that school. Yeah, Ableton, my school paid for Ableton, which was, hey, fucking crazy when you think about it. But anyway, and also just like I had never performed by myself. I had auditioned for like a handful of solos. I had auditioned for musicals, never got anything. But yeah, that first year of high school, I got put in an a cappella group, which is one of the most embarrassing but funny things I have to tell about myself, like a weird piece of my lore. I was in an a cappella group my final 3 years of high school. I need a water break. Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and need a water break. Okay, we're good. Yeah, I was in an a cappella group my last 3 years of high school, which is really funny to me because just like before that point, I would have never done anything like that. And I was performing like, honestly, once every 2 weeks at that point. Like in that group, I was performing once every 2 weeks. It did help that my music teacher like idolized me that first year, but that is something I will return to because that did not last for long. But yeah, I joined an a cappella group and choir as soon as I got there, but I was still like gradually working kind of through the stage fright. I did say I was faking it till I made it, and that is true. I was faking it till I make it. Or faking it until I made it, and I did. But I was at this school for a year, and like I mentioned, the last 2 years of high school, you do something called the diploma program. And higher level music, like I said, the HL class, higher level and standard level SL classes. Higher level music classes was one of the absolute hardest classes to excel in. And that was laid out to us when we were picking our courses. The IB grades on a 0 to 7 scale, 7 being the highest you can get. I do not remember the statistic, and also it has changed at this point in time. The curriculum I was doing got rewritten like 2 years after I graduated. But basically, I think it was like, it was definitely 5% or less, which is crazy if you think about it, because most international schools worldwide do the IB. So, hey, that's crazy. So that for one, but it was less than 5%, but I might be wrong. I think it was like 3.7% of students get a 7 in the class if they take higher level music, which is why the classes are so small and why a lot of people drop it halfway through the program. So you want to know what I decided to do as someone who had barely any experience with music theory, barely understood how GarageBand works, which as far as music software goes, GarageBand is very intuitive. Yeah. Very limited experience with music software, was still working through stage fright, and what else? I don't know. Was just generally unqualified. I chose that I was taking higher level music and I was going to get a 7. Newsflash, I did not get a 7, but that actually is going to not be my fault completely. Anyway, yeah, so I chose to choose the most academically rigorous course in terms of arts, and I think, how many other people were in my class? There was 4 other people in my class, 3 of which were taking higher level. Originally 4, 1 dropped down to standard level, and then it ended up being 2 people who were taking standard level, but originally it was just 1. So yeah, really small class as well. And as far as the arts go, it is the smallest, like, in the diploma program, it is the art that has the least amount of participation. Like, very few people sign up for it, but I decided that I was going to be a stubborn ass bitch, which, hey, that is just proven to be true to my personality. That is just who I am. I was going to be stubborn, and I told myself that I would do it. And I'm forever grateful that I made that decision because it changed my life completely. Yeah. Like I said, joined an a cappella group, did choir as well, and I had to do a project my first year that I moved to this school as, like, wrapping up the program before you start DP, diploma program, like I said. Also, I'm so sorry if this episode is boring, but I just, like, this is me. This is me and my experience with music. But yeah, I was required to do, like, a really, really thorough research project that basically shows all the skills you learned. Hey, me, hadn't learned any skills because I had not been in an IB school. I was at an American public school before that. So, safe to say that the skill set was not transferable, not even slightly. But I did a 6-month-long research project on songwriting for school, and I wrote lyrics for 6 different songs as kind of my showcase, like, to show people, oh, this is all the research I did and this is what I came up with. So basically, that was the time that I became, like, super obsessed with, like, classic rock. So, like, the Stones, the Beatles, Stevie Nicks, like, those were the big 3 that I focused on, and, like, their songwriting process, which was kind of arbitrary, and I made up a lot of stuff, and maybe that's why I didn't do as well on the project as I could have, but whatever. So yeah, that was also my first year of high school, in Thailand. But yeah, and on top of all of this, by this point, which was, like, towards the end of my first year of high school in Thailand, so I was a sophomore, year 11, whatever you want to call it. Don't mind if you can hear the blender downstairs. Like I said, this episode's going to be a little rough. Uh-oh. Oh, my phone is dying as we speak. Okay, I am back. I'm sorry for that brief interlude. Also, if, like, the camera has changed the angle, again, you'll have to forgive me because my phone, which I am using as my camera feature for this podcast, had the low battery signal, so I had to get up, and then I had to unlock my phone, so I had to take it off the tripod. But anyway, yes, at this point, I had done maybe about 3 solo performances, had decided I was doing this really rigorous program the final 2 years of high school. A cappella group got very dramatic, which is so funny. It's literally like Pitch Perfect, which, by the way, still have not watched that movie to this day. But yeah, it was just, like, very dramatic. My music teacher, who was obsessed with me when I first joined the school, quickly found someone else to direct her favoritism towards, and that kind of is going to be a common thread that I very vaguely explore for my final 2 years of high school. But I was starting to have a very complicated relationship with her, and that was impacting positively or negatively, depending how you look at it, kind of my approach to this class and kind of the next 2 years that I had signed myself up for. But yeah, long story short, I busted my ass to make up for the knowledge that I didn't have, because for reference, one of the only other HL students that I was up against in my class, he had been taking piano lessons since he was about 3 years old and had perfect pitch. So, like, I was never going to be able to compare to that regardless, but I busted my hump to make up for all of the stuff I didn't have, specifically, like, with music theory and, like, audio interfaces and music software, and, like, just the skills that I had never learned via vocal technique, because I had committed as a vocalist for the program. You have to choose one instrument. I chose vocals. How to use music software to mix and produce. That was very vague because we did it in class because a lot of us didn't know how to do it. And performing in front of an audience, whatever. And like I said, I was extremely stubborn and determined that I was going to get the best score in that class. But junior year of high school, I almost caved under pressure and, like, stopped doing music completely, because as I mentioned before, I had an issue with, or I had a complicated relationship with my music teacher. I think that complicated relationship with my music teacher has actually impacted me to this day, which is sad to admit that I have let someone have that much of an impact on me. But with stuff like the arts, like, art is subjective, beauty is subjective, everything like that. It is not something that can be so technical, so there's always going to be, like, the essence of favoritism. I don't know how else to put it, but there's always going to be something like that. And because of that, like, her and I had a very complicated relationship, and I did not like her very much at this point, and it had, like, drained almost all of my passion. She said some very hateful things to me, which were not helpful in the long run. So yeah, I almost caved and dropped music completely and was just going to reroute my entire IB diploma program career, basically. But then Harry Styles released Fine Line, and it rehashed my passion for music. So the second half of junior year and beginning of my senior year, I started finally using all those lyrics I wrote for the research project in my sophomore year of high school, and turn them into, like, actual songs and not just words. And I recorded them, and I started getting better at guitar, and then I, like, was self-teaching myself piano because it's really important for music theory anyway. So I was using that to kind of, like, prep for my exams and stuff. And yeah, like I said, those kind of skills were transferable to my music exams that I had to take, which I can do a whole episode. I know that I'm dwelling a lot on it now, but it's just kind of most relevant to, like, my background with music and, like, how I got to the point I'm at now. I can do a very specific episode about, like, music in high school and, like, go through, like, all my old performances and the nitty gritty of, like, the research I had to do and everything I had to know. But it was a very, very, very rigorous music test, and I can't believe, like, it's an actual test that they had. They got rid of the exam since I've been out of school, but, like, it was still a requirement of my syllabus, which is crazy because it was 50% of your grade. And then, yeah. I made the huge decision, because at this point was when I was choosing where I was going to go to college. I made the huge decision to apply for an audition for, at the time, a very, very competitive and world-renowned music school, despite the fact that this teacher I had a complicated relationship with telling me I had little to no chance of getting in, which is always a confidence boost you want from someone who's supposed to be a mentor for you in a very specific field of study, for them to tell you that. So that was really nice. But also, I got in. I got into the school, But I was super anxious, and I'm not going to dog on either of them because ultimately it was my decision. But one of my parents was very against me going to music school because it was very expensive, and if it didn't work out, I would have owed a lot of money back to the government, which is fair. But yeah, I was wildly anxious that I would not make the cut or I would cave under the pressure, so I chose my safe option, which I can tell you right now, I have pursued the safe option, and it was not a safe option. It was just a different option. So yeah. But it is, I don't know, it is crazy, and it's really easy to feel insecure because there's so many talented people out there, but it doesn't diminish how talented you are. And yeah, ultimately why I chose at the time to study, I studied literature, which is not better than studying music in my eyes. But I think it was the right decision because I think I have a robust enough skill set and interest enough to learn about music independently that if I want to pick it up, as I am doing right now, in some sense, I can. And also I feel like being in an environment, if I was already feeling the pressure and misfortune of favoritism in a really small cohort, I can only imagine how bad it would be if I was with a bunch of other people who were the best at what they do, because I'm just going to be completely honest, every musician out there has some sort of an ego. There's the self-deprecating ones that think they're bad about 90% of the time, and the other 10% they think they're hot shit, which audio listeners, I just pointed to myself. And then there's people who have too big of egos, but honestly, those are the people that do well. So maybe I need to take a page out of their book. But yeah. And then, yeah, my opportunities to perform and record got cut short, which is actually like a project I did with one of my friends in high school, which I'm going to be doing an episode where I recap like all of my old songwriting and like kind of do like tier list of all of it. But that was one of the only songs I ever actually produced, and I still listen to it now. I'm just like, wow. Like, oh, because also, like I said, or alluded to earlier, my school had hella resources. We had a recording studio in our school, which took me a couple years outside of high school to be like, hey, that's not normal. But anyway, those kind of opportunities to record stuff and like explore more got cut short because of COVID. And I had done like very little with music since starting college just because of the COVID of it all. I moved to London. That's where I went to college. But yeah, even then, like, I didn't touch music for so long. I was still writing and playing guitar like for myself, but like just not really pursuing any more serious endeavor, which still makes me sad. And yeah, I recorded demos of 2 different songs with a shitty Amazon microphone via GarageBand. But I did, one of my musical accomplishments from college was that I performed my own piece on guitar, which is a big thing for me because I hate playing guitar in front of other people. I mess up about 20,000% more. But I played my own piece for the first time, including my guitar, at the singular open mic night that I went to in London, but I haven't really touched music since. So that is just the brief recap, and by brief I mean it's been about an hour, which is perfect because that's exactly how long I thought this episode was going to be. Okay, my laptop is in fact dying, so I'm going to wrap it up. But basically, yeah, I haven't really touched music since, but hopefully all of that, the amalgamation of all of that, can give you some insights to my past with music and kind of like what I want to do going forward. Basically, since I have graduated college, I went through like 6-month long depressive period of like having an existential crisis. Like, oh my God, I'm tied down to the corporate world for 21 years old, and like there's no end in sight and blah blah blah. So I just need somewhere to air out my passions, and also I just feel like I bore the people in my life when I go on little rants about this, so hopefully I can connect with other people who are just as much music nerds as I am, because that was one of my favorite things about high school, is that like when I had enough of a base level understanding of like music theory and things like that, and mixing and producing and everything like that, I unlocked a whole other part of my brain and all of my interests. And I feel like I'm so much more inquisitive when I listen to music now, because music for me like has always largely been about lyrics. But yeah, having that knowledge kind of helped me grow a lot. So yeah, my laptop's about to die, so I'm going to wrap up this episode. But if you liked what you hear, please be sure to subscribe on YouTube, give this video a thumbs up, and turn on notifications if you would like to hear more from me. I know this episode was probably a little bit boring and rambly because I'm just talking about myself. I promise that as more episodes come out, I will A, be more comfortable recording, and B, actually be talking a little bit more about music. But yeah, before I forget, I want to do recap of my 3 favorite songs that I'm listening to right now. I'm just gonna go ahead and put one out there just because I said it, or said it was my like song I was gonna sing for the talent show. First song is gonna be Ready or Not by Bridget Mendler, because shout out to her. And then my 2 other songs that I have been listening to on repeat this week are Agua Salada by Mark Seguit. I don't know how to say his last name. Agua Salada, salt water, in case you're wondering. The Pool by Steven Sanchez. Recently became obsessed with him, which I'll talk about at a later time. And yeah, those are my 3 songs. So, Ready or Not, Agua Salada, and The Pool. But yeah, like I said, please be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're listening audio, please rate this 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm actually not sure how all the ratings work, or leave a review if you liked it. And yeah, just be on the lookout for more from me. Also, again, please give me some grace as I get more comfortable and figure this out. But yeah, that's all from me for this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will catch you in the next one. Toodles!